Hey, y'all. Welcome to Questions You Didn't Ask. Did you know that this very spot could be showcasing your business or event? Whether it's an audio ad on our podcast or a visual ad on our new YouTube station, or even both, we've got the space for you. Niasha Fray Consulting is reaching a growing audience of over 1,000 leaders who are passionate about health equity, social justice, and civil rights activism. These are professionals just like you, working across higher education, research, healthcare, nonprofit, government, and even public health sectors. If you're ready to get your message in front of a dedicated and engaged audience, send me an email at niashafrayconsultingllc@gmail.com. Let's talk about how we can help you connect with the people who need to hear about your services and products that advance health equity and wellness. Don't miss out. Get in the mix and let's make an impact together. Welcome back to Questions You Didn't Ask. I'm Niasha Fray, joined again by the brilliant Dr. Alaina Roberts as we continue Sankofa and Solidarity, uncovering Black and Native legacies for health equity. Let's dive back in. Yeah, that was the part that hurt, right? The reason why it hurt was because at the time, and I'm not, it's a long time ago, I'm not sure why he felt the need to denigrate Native Americans beyond it being a political maneuver, right? That could potentially benefit African American people, Black people. And that it was a similar calculation that Native American people took as it related to, is it better for us to align ourselves with more Black people or for us to align ourselves with more white people, right? And so from that is why I say we realize that Frederick Douglass up on our pedestal of, being an amazing abolitionist, orator, freedom fighter for the rights and lives and dignity of Black people, reveals himself to be human in that he's making calculated moves to position Black people politically above Native American people. And because hindsight is 2020, we can now reflect on, was that the right calculation? And I'm not asking you to answer that question because that would require a magic ball, right? A crystal ball, right? Which I don't have. And I'm assuming you don't. But what we can do is think about broader solidarity and future action. We can learn from what has happened in the past, in that what we see with Tulsa, what we see in the evidence of what has happened with the 5 tribes and their tribal nations and their land, and how different Native American peoples have been put onto limited reservations and cut off from so many opportunities to advance their communities and realize and advance things like health equity, right? Is that we can look back and see that calculation didn't actually work out for either one of us. It didn't work out. So how do the struggles and histories of Black, Native, and I'm even going to throw in there Latino communities, because I see some overlap, and it also kind of relates to another series that I did with one of my colleagues who happens to be Latino. How does this intersect? Because we have these minority communities that they have to make that calculated political alignment. And what we keep seeing and finding is that, especially in real time, it's not necessarily working out on their behalf, as we're seeing all these, really destructive and traumatizing deportations of our Latino brothers and sisters, whether they feel like we're brothers and sisters or not. They are being treated like they were our brothers and sisters in the sense of their humanity being denigrated. So when we think about that, Do you see how our histories, our struggles can help us move forward where there could potentially be some cross community solidarity?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, this is the perfect moment to see, kind of as you mentioned, that we have to have that solidarity or else we're all going to be kind of equally hurt. Yeah, I mean, you have part of the very diverse and broad Latino community voting for Trump. You have a number of Lumbees in North Carolina voting for Trump. I think a lot of people see Native Americans as progressive and Democrat voters, and that's not necessarily the case because a lot of them are rural and conservative. So the moment we're in, I think, when we're seeing all non-white histories, deleted off web pages and programs meant to help, in the public health space or in
Right.
the sciences, anything focusing on anyone who's not white, there goes your money. We're all in the same boat. Yes. So kind of when I'm working on a project right now, my second book, looking at this kind of more modern day moment, basically, where people are now more kind of aware of or understanding these histories. And really, I'm asking this question, like, how can we bring these to bear on what we're going through today? How can we kind of help the Chickasaw Nation and the Choctaw Nation and really all of these nations to understand acknowledging your history is not a weakness, because actually you would look far better than the United States right now, right? Kind of acknowledging that, but then also doing more to include Black people and include other people who are vulnerable, because you actually right now you have these safe spaces, like the state governments and even the federal government to an extent cannot do certain things to tribal citizens who are on tribal land. And so actually there's an opportunity for these to be spaces that can be more progressive no matter where they are, because of that special nation to nation relationship Indian nations have with the United States. So it's getting to see people, like it's getting people to see where we are and how we can help one another instead of continuing to let ourselves be divided by this ideology that is not going to save us, clearly.
Clearly, it is not going to save us, hasn't saved us, and continues to hurt, harm, put us in danger, and ultimately kill us. As you mentioned, what's happening with the public health infrastructure and governmental agencies and institutions is a dismantling of an opportunity for us to continue to be leaders in healthcare, health innovation, health technology, leaders in health equity for the world. That's what we are, regardless of how expensive it is. People look to America for good reason, for leading the way in terms of health innovation and providing the example of how to be inclusive, how to be diverse, how to reach target populations, various diverse target populations. And so the very specific, targeted approach to dismantle that is, to me, an act of terrorism and murder, because what we will see is that by taking resources away from marginalized communities, Black, Native, Latino communities, from the federal government, and even though we have Native nations, Indian nations, they do benefit from federal grants to study the health and well-being, as well as to serve the health and well-being needs of their communities. And so when that spigot is cut off, what we are signing up for is less resources to maintain or improve or save the lives of our loved ones. And so that is the reason why I make the bold statement that this is a murderous policy and agenda to try to further deepen these health disparities. And as I mentioned earlier, these are real lives. These are real communities. As I've shared on my podcast before, how they impact me and my family on a daily basis, and why that informs me and the work that I do and motivates me to keep moving forward. And so, given your expertise, and when we think about, one of the things that I also think about is how a lot of our elected officials have let us down, are letting us down, right? They have a really tough job. It was hard before January 20th, 2025, and it has just gotten harder. So I do want to give that balance to the equation. But for a lot of us, we see that they are letting us down. And not only our elected officials, but our business owners, our corporations, our private philanthropic organizations, even our professional organizations, they are letting us down. So, what we're also tasked with then is that if these people who claim to be our quote unquote leaders are leaving us high and dry to allow this 47th executive administration to plow us down in real time, take our jobs, take our resources, take our health care, then what can we as individuals do? If the leaders won't lead, what can we do? So when we think about, your expertise and kind of the angle at which you look at and analyze our history and our current state, what action should everyday people, potentially scholars, who are probably reeling, I know they are because I work with them, from all of these pullbacks and restraints, those policymakers that might be young in the process or potentially yearning to make a stronger impact, what can we do to amplify these hidden histories so that we can be better informed to advocate for justice? What are some of the things that you can imagine we can do?
I mean, I've been asking myself that question. And I've been doing little things like what is it called? There's this website called 5calls.org where you put in your address and then it tells you who your representatives, if you don't know, and like how to contact your congresspeople and your senators. And so whenever there is an issue, which there always is every day, often multiple issues, like I call those people and I say, please vote against this thing, or please do not vote to confirm this person. Does it do anything? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But either way, it makes me feel as though at least they had to hear my voice. At least they had to understand that someone they represent is really annoyed at something they did, even if they ignore me. Then there are... So my organization, or my employer, is university, of course. And so Columbia University just kind of pre-capitulated to President Trump. And so I actually am talking to my chair right now, the chair of my department, to say, how can we kind of talk to our university leaders right now and say, don't do this, basically, like, don't wait until it happens, but to say, we are on your side, we support you, and like, please don't give in. Then on an individual level, like I've just been making connections with people, like making connections with Native folks. Like anytime I meet someone who is Chickasaw or Choctaw, anytime I see someone who's like a university professor or in some place where I can reach them, like email them or whatever, I always just kind of reach out to them and say, like, are you aware of this history? Can I talk to you about this history? Do you support and giving freedmen citizenship in your nation? And I'm like, maybe I can hit 100 people eventually. Like maybe I can hit 1,000. Anyone I can just talk to on a human to human level and say, this is my family's history. This is how it intersects with your family's history. Please, on a human level, at least, like, can this mean something? And maybe I can grow a movement that way. Like that's sort of my hope. But even if that doesn't come true, I don't want to feel as though I failed, because it's better than nothing. And it's kind of what's getting me through this, like doing my own little part in my own little subfield, because that's what I can do. Like that's my specialty. That's what I feel maybe most comfortable doing, aside from like, larger protests or things like that. And I think if we all kind of make our own little movement in our own little subfield or our own little community, hopefully that can get us somewhere, because it's really dark out here.
If you're enjoying the show as much as we love creating it, consider showing your support by buying us a cup of coffee. Visit buymeacoffee.com/Niasha Fray O. That's buymeacoffee.com/Niasha Fray O, all one word. Each cup is just $5, and every single one helps us continue to produce, develop, and sustain the high quality content you've come to expect from Questions You Didn't Ask. Thank you for your continued support, and let's keep the conversation going. It is. It is. And I just have to tell you, thank you for being a light. You are a light. I am thankful for you joining us and helping us to spread the word about this very important history, about this history that is not meant for us. I mean, get mad. You're going to get mad. You're going to get mad. Get mad. Do it. And then start to figure out how we can use this to be a lesson learned, right? How can we use this to help us strategize differently, for us to think differently about who we are, right? And who our allies could be. And when you know who your allies could be, you also know you got to get past certain challenges before you can get to the meat of embracing each other, right? So being more informed about those potential allies, because again, I think going back to our earlier conversation, we oftentimes romanticize Native communities. We romanticize a lot of, Seminoles. I went to school in Florida. I also, am an alumnus of Columbia. I'm very upset about what's happening. And I'm seeing my colleagues dealing with it at their own institutions. University of Michigan just noted that they rolled back their DEI. I know University of California just rolled back theirs. And so these are very daunting times. But we're having these conversations regardless because they are very much needed and necessary. Two things before we wrap up. One is thank you for all of the shout outs. I wanted to give Bria Baker's book a little bit more of a shout out. Rooted, The American Legacy of Land Theft and the Modern Movement for Black Land Ownership. Are there any other organizations that you would like our community to know about, to books, websites that you really, really enjoy or get a lot from that you think deserve a bit of a boost, if you will? There might be some of your favorites you want to share.
Well, if you happen to be listening to this and you are a freedman, or you later on do family history and discover that you are, I want to point you toward the Choctaw Chickasaw Freedmen Association. They have a webpage that isn't always updated, but they have a good amount of information and a lot of places kind of to start doing that genealogy, and also to maybe hopefully get involved on kind of the advocacy that I'm doing for citizenship. Then I guess I also mentioned Taya Miles's book. It's called Ties That Bind. So she's the OG, as they say. She really kind of started this subfield, and I just have so much respect for her and her work, and she handles things in a different way, and that history is different. I mean, these are nations, the Cherokee Nation's history is different from the Chickasaw and Choctaw Nations, but it also goes a lot more into, the sexual assault of Black women in the Cherokee Nation and kind of the identity issues that come from being Black in a Native nation in the way that my book don't. So that would be kind of maybe something to read alongside my book.
All right. That is awesome. The last question that I tend to ask my guests because of the title, what are the questions that I didn't ask that maybe we should be so bold as to ask in the future?
Not even kidding. Like, we covered so much. Like, this is, I don't know, the best or one of the best interviews I've ever done. Like, you're an amazing interviewer. So,
I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that. We always are looking for positive feedback and always looking to plant seeds. I mean, you mentioned how your work, your efforts, whether it's 5 Calls, which I'm also a fan of, and your efforts to connect with people, I think is so important. We have to connect with people. We have to share what it is that we know. And remember that as crazy as the world is, there are still good people in the world. There are still people who are open, who want to listen, who want to learn, who want to grow. who need the opportunity to even know that this is a question to ask, a topic to explore. And so I am super glad that these are some of the things that you were doing. And I just want to encourage you to continue to plant those seeds. You know, our ancestors, you know, planted lots of seeds, and we are now benefiting from many of them. If we think about, you know, our grandparents, our great grandparents, and the saying that is becoming more and more popular, we are our ancestors' wildest dreams. You know, there were things that they imagined for their children and their children's children that they knew in the time that they were here would probably never happen in their lifetime. But because of their perseverance and because of the seeds that they sowed, we are here. We are still here, and we are a blessing, and we continue to try to be a blessing to others. And I just want to continue to support you and let you know your scholarship matters, your family matters, your family history matters. Your ancestors matter. And I'm so glad that I had the chance to fangirl with you today on questions you didn't ask, and that you were able to be a part of this wonderful journey with me. Thank you.
You're about to make me cry. Thank you so much for having me.
Bless you, darling. All right. Well, thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. We are so excited to be back. And as you can see, this is season 4, series 1 of Questions You Didn't Ask.